Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. And when betrayal comes from within your own family, it leaves scars that never fully heal. When I was 15, my world was shattered in ways I didn't think possible. The story I'm about to tell you isn't one of mystery or fantasy. No, this is a real story, my story, and it's about betrayal, secrets, and the heavy price of silence. I come from a small town nestled in the heart of Kenya, the kind where everyone knows everyone's business. My family wasn't rich, but we were respected. My father, Baba, was known as a good man, a godly man, the type that others admired. He was the chairman of the local church, always present at community events, always with a smile on his face. My mother, Mama, was quieter, more reserved, but they seemed to complement each other well. At least, that's what I thought. But like many things in life, appearances can be deceiving. I didn't know it then, but my family was slowly crumbling from the inside. And one day, everything came crashing down. It started with my younger brother, Kamau. Kamau was 12 at the time, a shy boy who spent most of his time reading or playing alone. He was different from the other kids in our neighborhood, quieter, more sensitive. I had always tried to look out for him, but I didn't realize just how much he was keeping to himself. Kamau was carrying a secret, one so heavy that it had been slowly eating away at him for months. I'll never forget the night he came to my room. It was late, past midnight, and I was already half asleep when I heard the soft knock on my door. At first, I ignored it, thinking I was imagining things, but then it came again. 3 soft knocks. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, and walked to the door. When I opened it, there he was, standing in the hallway, his face pale, his hands trembling. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw him. Kamau wasn't the type to come to me in the middle of the night unless something was really bothering him. "Amma," he whispered, his voice shaky. "Can I come in?" "Of course," I said, stepping aside to let him in. He walked into my room slowly, like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. I sat on my bed, watching him as he stood in the middle of the room, staring at the floor. "What's going on?" I asked, my heart starting to race. I could tell this wasn't just a bad dream or a nightmare. Something was really wrong. For a long time, Kamau didn't say anything. He just stood there, biting his lip, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. I was about to speak again when he finally looked up at me, and what he said next changed everything. "I've been keeping a secret," he whispered, "a secret about Baba." My stomach dropped. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I didn't know what he was about to tell me, but I could sense it was something terrible. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "What kind of secret?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Kamau sat down on the edge of the bed, his shoulders slumped. He looked so small, so fragile in that moment, and my heart ached for him. "You can't tell anyone," he said. "Not Mama, not anyone." "I won't," I promised, even though I wasn't sure if I could keep that promise. And then, slowly, painfully, Kamau began to tell me everything. Baba had been having an affair with a woman from our church, a woman we all knew well. She was a close family friend, someone who had been in and out of our house for years. To everyone else, she was kind, warm, generous, but behind closed doors, she was something else entirely. It had started months ago, according to Kamau. He had walked in on them one day, unexpectedly, and instead of being angry or apologetic, Baba had made him swear to keep it a secret. He had promised Kamau that it was for the best, that it was something grown-ups did, and that it wouldn't hurt anyone as long as they kept quiet. Kamau had been too young, too scared to know what to do. He had kept the secret, but it had been eating away at him. He was scared, confused, and overwhelmed, and he didn't know who to turn to. And now, finally, it had become too much for him to bear. As I sat there, listening to him, I felt a mixture of emotions: shock, anger, disbelief, sadness. I didn't want to believe what I was hearing. How could Baba do something like this? How could he put that kind of burden on Kamau? How could he betray Mama like that? But the more Kamau talked, the more it became clear that this wasn't just a one-time mistake. This was something Baba had been doing for a long time, and Kamau wasn't the only one involved. Baba had manipulated him, used him to cover his tracks, and that was what hurt the most. By the time Kamau finished, he was in tears, his small body shaking with sobs. I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him that everything would be okay, but I didn't know if that was true. I pulled him into a hug, holding him tightly as he cried into my shoulder. We stayed like that for a long time, neither of us saying a word. In that moment, I felt a mixture of anger and helplessness. I wanted to confront Baba, to demand answers, but I also knew that doing so could destroy our family. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do? Should I tell Mama? Should I confront Baba? Should I try to protect Kamau? Or would that only make things worse? The next morning, I tried to act normal, but it was impossible. Every time I looked at Baba, I felt a wave of disgust wash over me. He was acting like everything was fine, like he hadn't just put his own son through months of emotional torment. He smiled, he laughed, he went about his day like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront Baba. I waited until Kamau was at school and Mama was out, and I cornered him in the living room. My heart was pounding as I stood in front of him, my hands shaking. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low and steady. Baba looked at me, surprised. "About what?" "About Kamau," I said, "and about what you've been doing." His face changed in an instant. The warm, friendly expression he usually wore disappeared, replaced by something colder, harder. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice sharp. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice rising. "Kamau told me everything. I know about the affair. I know about the woman from church. I know about how you made him keep it a secret." For a moment, Baba just stared at me, his eyes narrowing. Then he sighed, rubbing his temples like he was annoyed. "And what are you going to do about it?" he asked, his voice calm, almost bored. That question threw me off. I had expected him to deny it, to apologize, to explain himself. But instead, he acted like it was no big deal, like this was just another inconvenience he had to deal with. "You can't keep doing this," I said, my voice shaking. "You're hurting Kamau. You're hurting Mama." Baba just shrugged. "Sometimes in life, you have to do things you don't want to do. That's just how it is." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was my father, the man I had looked up to my whole life, and he was standing there, justifying his betrayal, acting like it was no big deal. "That's not an excuse," I said, my voice cracking. "You're destroying our family." Baba looked at me for a long moment, then sighed again. "Amma, you're too young to understand." "I understand enough," I shot back. "You're supposed to be our father. You're supposed to protect us. But instead, you're using Kamau. You're lying to Mama, and you're tearing us apart." For the first time, I saw a flicker of something in Baba's eyes. Guilt, maybe, or regret. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that same cold, detached expression. "I've made my choices," he said, "and now you need to make yours. Are you going to keep this family together, Or are you going to tear it apart? I didn't know how to respond. What was I supposed to say? I wanted to scream, to tell him how much he had hurt me, how much he had hurt Kamau, but I couldn't find the words. All I could do was walk away, my heart heavy with the knowledge that our family was never going to be the same again. Moral of the story: there are things in life that we cannot control, but we do have control over how we respond to them. Betrayal, especially within a family, is one of the hardest things to endure, and the silence that follows can be even more damaging. Speaking up is the first step toward healing, but it's not easy. It takes courage, it takes strength, but it's worth it. If you've ever been hurt by someone you love, don't let silence keep you trapped. Find the strength to speak out. Your voice matters. What about you? Have you ever experienced something like this in your own family? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Share your experiences, share your story, and let's support each other. If you're in a situation where you feel trapped or scared to speak out, remember you're not alone. There's always someone willing to listen. Let's advocate for change, healing, and sanity through real-life stories.